And we are live on Facebook this morning. This is the first of 4 New Jersey Constitutional Republicans virtual conversations today. And I couldn't have a better leadoff man than my great friend, Assemblyman, history-making Assemblyman from LD1, Antwan McClellan. Thank you, Antwan, for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome, and I appreciate your friendship and your kindness throughout these last few years. It's been a pleasure to meet you and talk to you and learn from you and your family. So it's been awesome.
Well, we still have to get together, Antwan. You know, I've gone down to Ocean City every year of my life for the last 58 years, except for the last 2 years. So it's 58
Right.
minus 2. And we've talked about coming down, my wife, Barbara, and I, so that we can enjoy a slice of pizza at Preps. We'll go to Mac and Max. We'll go to Shriver's. We'll go to Coors. And
Yeah.
of course, all those great places that we love to indulge when we come down to Ocean City. And we're looking forward to sharing that time with you when we get down there.
I'm so looking forward to it also. And we get on those bikes and so that way we can work off those calories we're adding into our system.
That's exactly right. I've got to make sure that the bikes on the bikes rather on the back of the vehicle coming down so that we can utilize it. Of course, it's always a great bike ride on the boardwalk. That's the best place to ride bikes out here in Hopewell Township. Of course, we've got there's a little bit of undulation here and there. So going up those hills can be tough on the elderly like myself, but we certainly love to go to the boardwalk to ride the bike because of the great even terrain there on the boardwalk. But I wanted to start by asking you how did the summer, how did the season go for the various businesses on the boardwalk? Obviously, it was much better than 2020, but how was the economic season this year down there, the tourist season?
It was good. We had a very good season in Ocean City and in Cape May County as a whole. You know, people were happy to be able to be out and about and do things, and the weather was great the whole summer. So it was really good. So a lot of businesses had some great years. You know, it wasn't as great as it was in 19, obviously, but it was a lot better than what it was in 20. And so, you know, if it continues to go like that, and, you know, we're in the shoulder season now, and we still have people coming down and enjoying this beautiful weather, and we have a lot of events going on. So, you know, we're just going to try to keep it going, and hopefully, you know, that can build momentum and going into 2022.
Absolutely. Now, were there any businesses that were no longer viable? Were there any businesses on the boardwalk that closed up as a result of the pandemic lockdown?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it unfortunately it did happen. We lost quite a few businesses. You know, people were unable to return. You know, they couldn't, you know, make up that money that they lost, and then, you know, a shortage in employees, people weren't coming back to work, and so it made it difficult for a lot of families, and that's just the disappointing thing. You lose some of those historic places, you know, that you rely on, and so many people that visit us rely on, and they just couldn't manage to make it through the pandemic, and it's just sad and disappointing.
Certainly is. And throughout your travels in the legislative district, have you heard many business owners complaining that they're not able to get work or workers and hire employees?
Oh yeah, 100%. And you can just, and not even hearing, you can just drive through or ride through or walk through, you know, our legislative district, and you see the signs "Help Wanted," and that's everybody. You know, that's the big box stores, that's the small mom and pops. Everybody's having problems trying to get people to work, and hopefully that'll change. Hopefully that people will start coming back to work and then get back to leading the lives that they led pre-pandemic.
Just want to take a moment to Antwan and put up a share screen for the audience. And of course, there's some congratulations due to Assemblyman. He has been named the Citizen of the Year by the Ocean City Chamber of Commerce. So congratulations, Assemblyman, for that.
Thank you very much. I didn't expect that. Thanks, Jay. I greatly appreciate that, and I'm excited and you know, humbled by this being bestowed upon me by my hometown city. So it was very much unexpected, but I'm excited, and and I can't wait to sit down and meet with everybody and have that conversation. So it's unbelievable. I just don't. I'm overwhelmed and don't really know what to say.
Well, certainly deserving. And I'm sure you got the majority. If it was a vote count, I'm sure there wasn't another vote given anybody else, because certainly well deserving of it. And of course, you are a great son of Ocean City, and the great town that it's always been for so long, and continues to be. So, you've had an historical, it's been very historical. The fact that you won to win the assembly seat, along with Senator Testa and Eric Simonson. And we certainly want to see you reelected. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that should be. Here, Antwan, we have voting records. And I wanted the audience to realize how responsibly you have voted. New Jersey Key Votes, you can go to the Just Facts, votesmart.org to see how appropriately and how just Antwan has voted. Very, very financially responsible, not looking to increase any taxes, providing no votes for irresponsible appropriations to many, really, Antwan, special interest motivated legislation, and many examples of crony capitalism, wouldn't you say?
Oh, correct. And the amazing thing is, had a lot to learn, but Senator Testa has been a good person to talk to and bounce things off of, along with Assemblyman Simonson. And we talk a bunch, and just to make sure that we're physically responsible for our tax dollars that are getting spent and issued out. We love to help people and help all we can, but we don't need to burden everybody with big taxes, and that's a problem. We just don't want to do that, especially if the money is just going to special interest groups, and it's not going to the taxpayer to help out the taxpayer. And Senator Testa always says is, when are we going to ever have taxpayer justice? And that's what needs to happen to make sure that, that we look out for the taxpayer.
There's no question about it. And Assemblyman, the other thing that's very evident, as you just discussed, is the fact that you and Senator Testa and Assemblyman Simonson work very much as a team. And I think that is it's extraordinary, because you really don't hear about legislative representatives working as a team. The three of you clearly demonstrate that.
100%. And 2 years ago, we, not just a team, but we're family, and we're brothers, right. and we love one another and care for one another and respect each other's opinions. And we don't agree 100% all the time, as nobody in the family does. But we talk it out, and we work things out, and we make sure that everybody's is considered, everybody's voice is heard, and especially when it comes to our district. Our district is probably one of the biggest districts in the state, one of the most diverse districts in the state, and encompasses the ocean and the beautiful bays that we have throughout Cumberland County, and things of that nature. So we just make sure that our constituent voices are heard, and through that we take that to Trenton and make sure that we're looking out for our legislative district along with the rest of the state.
Mm-hmm. And one of the votes I want to highlight was one that you did on past June 24th, was the bill that it would appropriate $46 billion in funds for fiscal year 2021. And of course, you looking over the bill, as well as the rest of the LD1 legislative team, can clearly indicate examples of unnecessary expenditures. Is that safe to say?
100%. And we didn't need to borrow that much money. Your grandkids and great grandkids and kids and stuff like that are going to be paying that back for the rest of their lives. There's no reason for that to happen. And the senator filed suit against that. The Supreme Court didn't 100% agree with them, but they agreed with them somewhat. So some of that money was reduced. And with that fight, but there was no need to borrow that much money. Allow the businesses and allow the residents to make up the difference and borrow instead of putting them back in, and they have to go back into their coffers and charge more and force them to do things that they don't necessarily do to the taxpayer.
Right. And Assemblyman, I wanted to get your thoughts on, we obviously, we're always talking about the New Jersey Constitution. We're trying to make it familiar to the people, to the citizens of New Jersey, but also to the representatives, especially those on the other side, actually maybe giving them a little bit of education on what the Constitution actually says. But I wanted to share this with you because this is something that we both are very interested in, and that would be the preamble of our Constitution. The state constitution, which says, "We, the people of New Jersey, grateful to Almighty God for the civil and religious liberty which he hath so long permitted us to enjoy, and looking to him for a blessing upon our endeavors to secure and transmit the same unimpaired to succeeding generations, do ordain and establish this Constitution." And Assemblyman, remarkably, 2020, in the first year of New Jersey's existence, the very right of religious expression, freedom, was indeed impaired unconstitutionally by the current administration.
Correct.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
We have to have some sort of freedoms without government forcing things upon people. My faith leads me, and I have a strong faith, and so allow people to make their own way without forcing mandates on them. We understood the first 2-3 months that there was major concern and things needed to happen, but if we continue to go on, we understand that the science and what's being talked about, there's too many different sides to that. And allow people, if you're not allowing people to live their lives, then you're forcing them to make choices that they don't want to make and they're not comfortable with. And we as government officials, as elected officials, shouldn't be doing that. We should be there to help people, not hinder people's lives. And it's too costly for that to happen. And you've hurt too many people by forcing mandates on them. You've affected too many people's health by forcing mandates on them. Let's sit down and talk and allow people to make their decisions. Businesses don't want their customers to die. People don't want their family members to die. But you also have to allow people to manage and protect themselves, and also, defend their families and things of that nature without forcing things upon them. And it's just not right.
Right. And of course, we saw the unprecedented suspension of religious liberties in New Jersey, but also the right of assembly, which is very similar and would be associated with religious expression. But also the fact, Assemblyman, that the people have an unalienable right to obtain, possess, and secure their property. Now, we think of property as just being exclusively real estate. However, it's also the money we earn, as well as the businesses that we may own. And of course, the lockdowns had a tremendous effect. And again, the lockdown was an example of a suspension of these constitutional rights of earning and making a living.
Correct. And you can't pick winners and losers. So the big box stores were the winners. So, if I can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, or a supermarket, but I can't go to church, I can't go to a mom and pop store. Is COVID, more rampant in the mom and pop stores or in church than it is in Home Depot or Lowe's? I can't sit at a restaurant and have a meal without having a mask. You know what I mean? But if I take the mask off after 10 o'clock, then I'm okay. You can't have those type of restrictions. You can't play with people's lives. And there was no way to determine if COVID was going to happen or if it wasn't going to happen because you were in Home Depot, or if I was in a small mom and pop store trying to do something like, a small brewery or things of that nature. I can go to a liquor store, but I couldn't go to an AA meeting. So those are the type of things that just don't make any sense. It has to be all or nothing. It can't be, I'm picking this person and then in 3 months I'll open up this, or 4 months I'll open up that. And you have no science behind it. And, and you even kind of see it, you're picking winners and losers when the vaccinations were rolled out. Certain people couldn't get the vaccination. You had to stand in line for hours at a time to get a vaccination shot, or certain people were less of a class and they couldn't get the vaccination. So you had to do special things to make sure that those people got the vaccination. And so you can't pick winners and losers with that. And it is bad. It's not a good thing to do. And especially if government is controlling. Government should not be controlling that.
That's right, Assemblyman. You bring up the point, and it reminds me of looking back to initial Republican principles, which we talk about all the time, and the great manifestation or fulfillment of initial Republican principles was led by the great Thaddeus Stevens in passing the 14th Amendment, which gives equal protection and due process to all Americans. At that time, it was specifically associated with the freed slaves who the Union and who Abraham Lincoln through the Emancipation Proclamation, and then of course the winning of the Civil War, they were Republicans that won that war, which of course you and I are both proud Republicans, and we look back at that heritage and the idea that all people are to be treated equally and given due process. And we clearly see an abrogation of 14th Amendment rights with Phil Murphy and the Democrats leading these lockdowns.
Yeah, and continue lockdowns and continue to control the people of this state. As the governor or as any legislator, we're not supposed to be controlling anybody. We're not supposed to be telling somebody what to do that has the right to make their own decision. We give you options, and then from those options, then you choose and go from there. If we can help, but we don't demand. I can't tell you what you should be doing in your house. It's just, it's not the proper way to go about life, to make demands as I sit in my ivory tower, trying to be safe from everybody else. But you need to do this, that, and other thing, while I'll do something different, and don't pay me any attention.
Of course, Assemblyman, you're speaking of really what the first sentence, the first idea given in our state constitution says in Article 1, rights and privileges of the citizens. Clause 1 says all persons are by nature free and independent. And that thinking and that idea that's associated right away in our New Jersey Constitution is not even given a consideration by Phil Murphy and the Democrats.
Right. And it's just, we're all free people. We have free choice. I make choices every day, free and independent of what the government thinks. And we should be able to do that. And that's just our right. And that's our God-given right to make those free. And that's what we should be doing, not anybody demanding things on us, especially if the science isn't making any sense.
And that's a very important point too, Assemblyman, that the science is by no means settled on anything that's occurred regarding the COVID-19 lockdown or the vaccinations as well. And for people to think that everything has been settled is a grave epistemological mistake. Of course, epistemology meaning knowing and learning and acquiring knowledge. Right. But Assemblyman, I wanted to again show something that I thought was very important and indicative to share with the audience. Again, going back to your Facebook page, this is thanking Senator Testa as well as Assemblyman Simonson. William Still Day, October the 7th, celebrating the 200th birthday of Underground Railroad leader William Still, native son of New Jersey. Talk to us about that. And of course, the great Harriet Tubman Museum. And of course, in talking about this, Assemblyman, we're going to be talking about fellow Republicans who made great history and who were indicative of the initial principles of the Republican Party, liberty to all.
Yeah, then I'll start with the beautiful Harriet Tubman Museum that's opened up in Cape May County. And
yes,
the senator and the other two assemblymen, Assemblyman Simonson and myself had opportunity to tour it. And the Mullocks, Bob Mullock and his daughter Cynthia Mullock, who run it, took us for a tour, and along with Assemblyman William Spearman, who came down to tour it also. And we learned about the Still family. And I had no idea about the Still family, no clue whatsoever. And they're right here in our backyard. And Assemblyman Spearman had brought up and said that they're going to be doing a celebration for the 200th birthday of William Still, who's out of Burlington County. And so we're like, oh my gracious. So we put together a collaborative effort to make sure that we celebrate him, not just in Cape May County or in Burlington County, but throughout the state. He needs to be recognized for what he's done. And the fact that he was in South Jersey doing this, and the fact that he brought Harriet Tubman to South Jersey and got her to Cape May County with the Underground Railroad. You know, these things need to be promoted, and these things need to be upfront.
Yes.
And that's the history that we need to celebrate, and that we don't know about, and the great people that have done great things in New Jersey. And that's what's important. And that's how we need to continue on our history and let everybody know that these people, especially African-American people, have done so many great things in this state. And we're going to continue to celebrate those and promote those things so that everybody can see that our history is a vast, diverse history that needs to be celebrated and brought to the forefront.
No question about it, Assemblyman. And this is indicative of the great Republican history that we have in the state, personified by Harriet Tubman, by William Still, all working together to help slaves and to bring them to freedom, and to eventually, as with the winning of the Civil War, which was done by the Republican Party, which needs to be reiterated over and over. And that's why the Constitutional Republicans proclaim it from on high. And as Senator Testa likes to say, that I'm preaching the Republican gospel, which I consider that to be an honor. And this is why we're talking about Frederick Douglass. This is why we're talking about all the early Black Americans who were all Republican unanimously. And of course, you have come along, and now you're bringing back that heritage and letting people know the Republican Party's great heritage in ending slavery, giving due process, and then giving freed Black Americans the right to vote, our 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments.
Right. And also creating jobs and creating commerce and giving and educating everybody. So and being inclusive and helping people out. And that's what the foundation of that is. And that's what we are teaching. Is that what we should be able to do is, you know, each one you reach one and you teach one and you help one and make everybody better that way.
That's right. And of course, that is our ideas of inclusion are much, much different than what the Democratic Party stands for, which is usually special interest groups, sectarian interests, specific racial, sexual, economic classes. And this is essentially what the Democrats thrive on, whereas the Republicans, and as you as an assemblyman, you're talking about equal application and inclusivity for all people, regardless of what they are. It's more in line of who they are. Right. And of course, it seems to me, Assemblyman, that we've forgotten Martin Luther King's great admonishment that a person should be judged by their character rather than the color of their skin. And the Democratic Party has completely pushed that aside and ignored that statement from Dr. King.
Correct. And there's no reason that, you know, just because of the color of your skin, you should be seen as less than or unequal to or any of that. You know, we all are children of God. So as a child of God, I'm going to respect you and care for you as I would anybody else. And I'm going to treat you how I wish to be treated. And that goes back to what you learned back in kindergarten, is you treat people how you wish to be treated. And I'm going to respect you. I'll respect our differences. Then I'm going to respect your opinion. And not to say that just because I don't agree with you, that doesn't mean I don't love you or care for you any less. I just happen to think differently. But, you know, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about things. And And I think that we have an idea of what the right way is to go about things and to make sure that everybody is taken care of.
Exactly. And what you're doing is echoing these very same principle Abraham Lincoln brought forth and readopting the principles of the Declaration of Independence, which we as Constitutional Republicans call for now. But the basis, the foundation of that was what we read in the Declaration of Independence is of the self-evident truth that all men are created equal. We are all human beings. We are all created that way. Now, we may be very different in physical ability or talent or determination or whatever it is that may be. All those other things, all those other attributes are very, very different. But what makes us all the same is our equality before God and before the law. And that's what that self-evident truth means. And you, of course, are talking about this in everything you're doing in Trenton and in the State House. And I also wanted to share, Assemblyman, where you could be found on the NJAssemblyGOP.com site / McClellan. And there's a great video there that I've watched several times that I would encourage all of the voters in LD1 and all the people watching our show throughout the state to watch that video. It's very, very informative. And of course, I want to tell the audience and discuss for us for a moment the responsibilities that you've been given as being appointed to 3 different committees. Number 1, the Appropriations Committee, the Tourism, Gaming, and the Arts Committee, and also Homeland Security and State Preparedness. So you've been serving so well on those committees. Talk a little bit about each one briefly, if you would, Assemblyman.
I will. I gotta keep an eye on you. I gotta figure out what you're doing before we talk again, because you're pulling up all this stuff and it's making me blush a little bit, and I'm looking a little overwhelmed. But thank you for that.
Oh, I don't. Okay, well, I don't want you to be overwhelmed.
Yes.
I want the people to know, especially in LD1, what a great representative we have.
But thanks, I appreciate that. But as far as my committees are concerned, the most important committee to me when we won and they were asking me my committee assignment said I was interested in was tourism, gaming, and arts, and that's the heartbeat of South Jersey, specifically Cape May County and even Cumberland County, because there's so many great things that are going on. And you know, I'm going to speak about Cumberland County that I've learned, you know, about the great Bay areas, the great clamming industry that they have. If they want to go to you and to be able to visit Vive Out, those things need to be celebrated and those things need to be put on the forefront. So with tourism, absolutely, you know, we are an industry down here that doesn't rely on big things. So we do everything with mom and pop stores. We don't have any big name brand hotels around here that are drawing people. You know, we have our beaches, we have our boardwalk, we have our Bay Area, and we celebrate that. And I want to make sure that Cape May County gets its just due as far as we send up $550 million in tax dollars, hotel tax dollars, to the state, and we were only getting $1 million back. I'm going to try to fight for that and make sure we get more money back so we can go ahead and promote more tourism and get more people here. Appropriations, it was important because that's the physical aspect of that, and to make sure that when these bills come through, the physical responsibility comes to us to make sure that we're not overspending. So I want to have the ability to sit there and look at that and say, you know, well, X amount of millions of dollars for this doesn't make sense. You know, we shouldn't be doing that. You know, X amount of millions of dollars for this is going to help people, and that makes sense, and we should be doing that. And Homeland Security, you know, want to protect our borders. I want to protect our officers. Law enforcement is very important. And the people that are putting our first responders that are out there at risk on a daily basis, so we can talk like this, you know, or I can go to Trenton or I can sleep at home and restful at night. I want to make sure that, you know, we protect them and we do what we can for, you know, for our first responders and what we can do to make sure they, most importantly, they get home to their families. They allow us to be with our families, but they need to get home safely to their families also.
Outstanding. And I also have brought up, Assemblyman, some of the primary sponsored bills that you put forth. And this is indicative of how hard and effectively you've been working in Trenton at the State House Starting with recognizing the Howe House in Cape May, the Harriet Tubman Museum that we just discussed, how important that was, great recognition of history. Extending the period in which student athletes are required to receive physical examination before participation in school-sponsored athletic activities during the school year. Authorizes elective surgeries and invasive procedures to be performed during coronavirus disease emergencies. Requires the motor vehicle MVC rather to provide certain vehicle and licensing services in each county and each state. And of course, we know about the inefficiency in which the motor vehicles have been run as a result of the lockdown by the Murphy administration, and of course others here. So just talk for a moment about all the great primary sponsored bills that you've been a part of, Assemblyman.
Well, thank you. It was interesting because we had to turn our focus to coronavirus stuff. So, you know, the DMV, which was looming large here, and the state at one point didn't know where our DMV was here in Cape May County. And it didn't make any sense for anybody to be driving 2-3 hours to be sitting in a line to get turned away when our DMV are in each county are perfectly able to take care of that. So, you know, coronavirus in, I don't know, Essex County is going to be different from coronavirus in Cape May County. You know, if you're going to get it in Cape May County, then you can get it in Essex County. Why should you have 1,500, 15,000 people sitting at one DMV when you perfectly can have 100 or 200 at your own local DMV, and our seniors and our elderly people don't have to drive and sit in those hot lines outside to get these practical things done. So the DMV was a huge thing for us, and we led to getting our DMV open and getting it rightfully addressed, because they thought we were in a different town than what they had on the state website. We had to make sure that was changed. Our office during coronavirus became an unemployment office, which was tiresome to our great staff. And, you know, we shouldn't be a so-called unemployment office. Our staff wasn't getting paid for that. You know, it made no sense for state to be sitting at home working and claiming the work when our office staff is in the office working and doing their job. And that was very disappointing and disheartening. And millions of people couldn't get their unemployment check. They can't work and they can't get unemployment. They shouldn't be waiting 7, 8, 9, 10 months for an unemployment check, while, you know, state employees are sitting at home getting paid and not showing the concern that they should have for fellow citizens. And this is not just, it wasn't just the legislative district 1 office thing. It was every legislative district office in this state, you know, had to become an unemployment office while all those employees were sitting at home. And a majority of them are still not back to work. So we wanted to bring those common sense things for corona, you know, during the coronavirus to make sure that, you know, people can get taken care of. And just issues that arose because of coronavirus, we wanted to bring forward bills that would subsequently take care of that and help people out. And then, you know, I'm not as a steward of history as you are, but I'm still learning and adapting to that. And I wanted to make sure that we as state representatives celebrate our history in the state of New Jersey. So, you know, with the Harriet Tubman Museum, with my Black History, my Black Heritage History Trail that will be established from south to north. You know, these things, you know, not just New Jersey history and not just Black history, you know, but our history, and specifically Black history. And Black history was only really celebrated, if you think about it, you know, Martin Luther King Day in January, or Black History Month in February. Our history should be celebrated, you know, all year long, and not just, you know, for that little bit of time. And I think that the Heritage Trail will allow that to happen, and also it brings people as far as tourism. It'll take people to different states because people travel for history, and that, you know, it's a small group, but it can become a bigger group. And then you can get into the schools and have those children traveling for history and bring an eye to different municipalities on what they do. So, you know, that's a couple of just the common sense bills that we brought forward. And also Senator Testa had worked on a bill where we had mobile barbershops, you know, all the barbershops for coronavirus. And for something like that to happen, he got with a small business in Vineland and he created a mobile barbershop. And that way, not just for regular haircuts, but he can travel and give cuts to homeless or people or elderly folks, the people that have problems. So that bill had passed. And so this just common sense thing that we like to bring forward. And it doesn't need to be anything super crazy or super strenuous. It's just common sense things that we bring forward and like to make sure that our constituents are taken care of.
And it's very, very appropriate that Senator Testa would be involved with mobile barbershops, Assemblyman, because we all know how well coiffed our state senator is, right?
Completely, never a hair out of place.
That's right. And he's always on me about my hair too.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, we're coming to the conclusion of our conversation. It's been great to have you, Assemblyman, but I wanted to highlight a discussion that you had back with Representative Bramnick and Mr. Ship that you did on police reform. I thought it was a very informative conversation, and just discuss for us what that was about. And I would recommend that people go to this. They could find it on Assembly Bramnick's videos, and we'll provide a link to it as well, Assemblyman. But talk about this discussion a little bit.
It was unbelievable. Giles Ship has become a good friend and a good ally as far as with law enforcement and specifically, African Americans in law enforcement and one trying to increase the availability to African Americans to become law enforcement officers, and also to talk about this, the struggles and things that law enforcement goes through. And myself and minority leader at the time, Bramnick, and Mr. Ship got together and we talked about what we can do to make it better for constituents and people with that relationship with police, and also make that police relationship stronger in the community. And community policing is a big thing, but also to see people that look like you as far as that are police in your area. And when you have people that are from your neighborhoods and people that that you recognize and that that you've possibly grown up with, that makes the police officer experience a little bit better, and make sure that the police are talking to people. And in my first encounter with a cop shouldn't be them pulling me over, but should be maybe in the school system, and they've seen me grow up and they know, and then that relationship becomes a little bit softer and easier. And those are the things that we wanted to discuss, because police aren't bad people. Police are us. They are human beings. They put their pants on the same as we do, one leg at a time, and they need to go home. They have families also. So, those encounters should be a lot better and a lot easier, as opposed to just, being a combative or I'm issuing you a ticket encounter. And that's what we talked about. And, Giles Ship helped me because I've been dealing with civil service myself. I put together a group with Giles Ship, Sheriff Robert Nolan, from Cape May County, Prosecutor Jeff from Cape May County, Prosecutor Jennifer Webb from Cumberland County, State Chiefs Association, Chief Lusner, and we put together a group to try to work with civil service so we can get more people of color involved in law enforcement, and making that civil service process a lot easier, and how we can ensure the fact that our communities look like who lives in our communities, and this group is together, and that's how you make good legislation. You bring everybody to the table, everybody that it affects, get everybody's idea, and then that's how you form good legislation, instead of just putting something together saying, well, I saw you in the supermarket, I complained about something, and then I have a bill that's going to cost us $50 billion because of one person in a supermarket that may be said something in Cape May County that doesn't affect the same person in Sussex County or Essex County. And those are the type of things that we develop. Everybody needs to come to the table and talk, and that makes common sense bills.
Right, and it was a great panel there and a very informative discussion. And Assemblyman, I have to congratulate you on a couple of great, fine years. A lot of work has been done. I know how hard you've worked, as well as the rest of the legislative team, but you've made such a great impact, I believe, in the Assembly. Well respected, all these great bills that you've sponsored, all the hard work you're doing is indicative and only helps not only the people of LD1, but also all New Jersey citizens in the decisions that you're making and properly representing the people of LD1. So I want to congratulate you on a two great years.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate all the advice and everything that you've been able to do for me over the last couple of years. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I can't wait to see you, even if it's not on the boardwalk, when we can break bread again and have another conversation and enjoy a little fine wine and go forward.
That would be good.
Yes.
I'll go for some red dry any day of the week.
Yes.
Maybe even a nice cigar after that. But let me employ the people. Let me implore the people, Assemblyman, Republicans in LD1 need to get the vote out. If you've got ballots and you're going to vote by mail, get them signed, get them in now. If you're going to go to the booth, like I like to do, traditionally go to the voting precinct, then make sure you go. We've seen, and I've talked about this, Assemblyman, about the lack of voter apathy and voter indifference. It's essential that all Republicans in LD1 get out and vote for Assemblyman McClellan, Simonson, and Senator Testa, the whole LD1 team, Testa team. It's important that you get that vote in if you're doing it by mail, or get to the voting precinct on November 2nd. Too many Republicans don't vote, Assemblyman, and that is a travesty. We need representatives like you, Eric, and Michael, continuing on and properly representing not just the people who vote for you, but all of the citizens of LD1.
Correct. Well said. And I make sure everybody gets out and vote. November 2nd is important. A lot of people died for the right to vote, and we need to make sure that we continue that on, and don't let anybody tell you different.
Amen. And we'll end on the quote that I normally give Assemblyman, which I hope is an inspiration to all Republicans, and especially Republican representatives like yourself, Lincoln, and just talking about the creation of our nation and the exceptional founding documents like the Declaration, the Constitution. He said that all this is not the result of an accident. It had a predetermined purpose, and it had a philosophical cause. And philosophy means the love of wisdom. Without the Constitution and the Union, we could not have attained the result. But even these are not the primary cause of our great prosperity. There's something behind those ideas, and that is entwining itself more closely about the human heart. That something is the principle of liberty to all. The principle that clears the path for all, gives hope to all, and by consequence, enterprise and industry to all, unquote. And there you have it, Assemblyman. Those ideas can resonate with the majority of voters, whether they're Democrat, Independent, and especially Republican, and they need to be restored within the psyche of the Republican mind.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful quote, and I greatly appreciate that.
That's from the fragment on the Constitution that he wrote in 1862, essentially while the Union was losing the Civil War at the time. But we know God had a whole other plan, and that was to let freedom and let the idea of liberty to all be applied to all people, regardless of what they look like.
So true. And it's amazing how it still applies today.
That's right. Amen. That's their eternal principles. Assemblyman, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you and partaking in that glass of wine. All the best, and I hope to see you before the election.
Absolutely. Sounds good. God bless you, and God bless your family, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Assemblyman. You have a great day, and we'll be back on in just moments with Senator Testa. So thank you, Assemblyman. God bless.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.